Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solve them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings.
Good. How are you guys doing? All fine?
Good. Yeah, a bit of a heat wave, but all good. How about you?
Yeah, all fine. Really good. You like heat waves?
Yeah, it could be worse. So you'll be excited. I started watching Deep Space Nine.
Good.
So yeah, actually, I watched an episode.
What do you think?
I think I've watched maybe the first 5, so it still feels like, getting into the series. I read that like some of the later seasons are supposed to be really good. But it's, enjoyable, light television, I suppose. It's interesting to watch, television built for, or shows built for TV versus shows built for streaming. There's so much more like self-contained episodes. You can kind of, pick them up wherever they are. The feel is different.
So you're watching Deep Space Nine. I started watching the new one, Star Trek New Worlds, which is not bad. But you see, again, that's also made for TV, not for streaming. So every episode is its own self-contained thing, but then you got the bigger arc of the whole story.
Yeah, it's just it's a different like feel to the show, I guess. But the one I watched last night, well, first of all, it started off, there were like issues happening all around the ship, and I think it's O'Brien who's like the I guess tech.
Oh, ship! It's a space. It's a space station.
The space station. Excuse me.
Big difference.
Is the tech guy was being asked to fix a million things, so it reminded me of like an overwhelmed kind of IT admin kind of situation, and then it turned into there was a virus on the ship that got activated, and it was like a quarantine episode, and I was like, of course, it was a little triggering.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that. I mean, I haven't watched that in 10 years. It feels like 10 years. But I can remember O'Brien quite clearly in Cisco. Yeah, it's a good series. I mean, the nice thing about all those series, even Voyager and all that, is they are good stories. And even though the technology that they've used, to film it looks out of date, it's still good stories.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying it so far, but yeah, finally getting around to that. Of course, it's about to go off of Netflix, so I've caught it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, not gonna make it through however many seasons there are before like the end of June, so gonna have to figure that out.
Oh no! So where's it going?
I don't remember. It's another service that I do not have.
Oh, Paramount's launching their own service.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the link that I sent you last night or this morning. There's a Dune game now called Battle of the Spice.
I saw the link, but I haven't had a chance to read it, but it sounds intriguing.
Yeah, the video looks quite good. It's one of those things like you watch it and you think, oh, I'd love to play that, but then you just think how much time you're going to spend on it, and that's why you don't do it.
Is it like a modern update of the old Dune game?
Yeah, it's new. It's I don't even know if it's released yet, or might have just been released.
I think it's meant to tie in with the movies.
Mm-hmm. So are you going to play, or not sure yet?
I'm not. I've got to be careful because that sort of stuff just takes up time, and I don't have time to do the stuff I want to do. So to go buy a game and an Xbox and all the rest of it just seems like a bad idea. But I'll keep an eye on it. What I'm actually hoping is that these sorts of things will proliferate down to the app stores. So you'll get a cut down version or a version that'll run on an iPad. You can just go play that. Because iPads are powerful enough to play these games. And if it falls into like arcade, which I've actually been playing a little bit of arcade now and then, that's almost good enough in some respects, because the games are simple enough that you can just pick them up and play, and you get your fix out of them. And then also your accessibility is there because it's a part of subscription. Not worried about it. But it's I'm very tempted because I really like the storyline and the trailer that I saw. And I think it would work quite nicely as a real-time strategy or a rotating turn strategy game, which play really nicely on an iPad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Civilization you can play on an iPad.
There's a few games. XCOM's got a few games on iPad. There's a few of them. But, I like the games where, very much the same as I like TV shows, it's self-contained. So you're not, nothing irritates me more than you play in a game and then it wants you to buy something to carry on, or to subscribe to carry on. I just want to pay like $10 or whatever it is, own the game. Like XCOM games, I can just play them. I've got both of them or all three of them. I can just load them up and play them. And there's no bolt-ons to pay for, subscriptions, check in every day, all that kind of stuff. Because that stuff frustrates you if you can't do it. So.
No, I'm with you there. I think there was like a Harry Potter mobile game that was like that, where just to continue playing, you had to pay, or it makes it. I'm with you. I'd rather just pay up front for a game, but sure, it's less lucrative over time, which is why they've switched to this model. But it makes gameplay really frustrating, and I don't know, just not worth it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's what the model is, paying up front versus subscribing, but I would always think that the game itself is not really where the money's made nowadays. I would think the money's made in the merchandising. Not just selling T-shirts, but all the other stuff. I think that's where it would, and I can understand, like if you're on an online game like a World of Warcraft, where people invest multitudes of hours a day to play, and you can pay for upgrades and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the game. I can kind of understand that premise, but you're going into that eyes wide open. Whereas a lot of these games will offer to you for free, and then in order to get past a certain part, you have to pay, and I find that frustrating. Or like there's a couple of baseball games that I like, and you're bombarded. Like any time you're not playing the game and you're trying to do something, you're bombarded with something else to pay for, and you're like, I don't want to. I just want to click and play.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've been exchanging a few other links these past couple weeks. It's been a minute since we've recorded, so.
Yeah, the other one so there's this VR thing with autistic children and helping them to, which this article at least around how they play in a VR environment, and that helps them to join what they've experienced in the VR environment with the real world. I thought that was a really interesting byproduct of the technology. Neurodiversity is obviously quite an important thing to cover, and finding ways to help people, because if we all think we're normal in our own heads, I think, but you don't realize what someone else is going through, and everyone is different. So I thought that was a really cool article.
Yeah, I think the potential of VR to be that, I suppose, therapy device is really interesting. I think what they were finding with the efficacy of it for getting people exposed to different social situations, or like a visit to the doctor, and that it actually having a tangible, effect is interesting. I think there's a lot in that space that seems promising.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have a chance to read the one on digital twins?
I did, and to be honest, digital twins it's one of those terms that I never fully feel like I understand what it means. It's like a digital replica of a real thing using sensors a lot of the time. Is that correct?
It is and it isn't. So I was listening to a thing. Well, there's a couple examples that I've heard of. One is like if you look at seagoing vessels, and you have the digital twin of a real vessel, and all the data points, yes, you call them sensors, I guess, mapped across the vessel. You can simulate what will happen to that vessel through storms and through normal weather, etc. The other one that I was listening to was around Las Vegas, and how they were able to, they have digital twins of the whole strip, and they simulate there what can affect the strip, different traffic patterns. If there's a terrorist attack, they do a lot of stuff with electric vehicles at the moment, and self-driving vehicles. So you can get a self-driving taxi. I think there's about 80 of them going up and down the strip, and they're simulating, what happens if they've got 160, or if they do wider things. So that's where digital twins make a lot of sense. And the twins are kept up to date based on the sensors, so you can always have a real-time view of what's coming and going in your simulated environment, or what when I say coming and going, what variables have changed. And that's why I think it's quite interesting, because if you had to go and build mock models of something, it would always be in a clinical environment, whereas if it's digital, it's still a clinical environment, but you can factor in a lot more things, because it's all the whole environment is virtual. Whereas with physicals, you're always counterbalancing something else in the environment, wind or structural issues or space. I mean, if you haven't got enough space to build the digital twin, where would you put it? Scale of things, that sort of stuff. So I think it's an interesting space, and I think that, with the computing power that's available nowadays, I think you'll see more and more of it, because the barrier to entry is getting less and less. You could drive down. What they did is they drove down the strip in Las Vegas with some special cameras, and that was the way they formed the digital twin, to get the structures, and then they put the sensors in based on knowing where to put it, to do the scans.
The example that really interested me was the digital twin of the human body, and the potential for everyone to have their own digital twin that they can model. Here's what would happen if I started smoking, or took up running, or whatever it is, to model out your health outcomes. Seems really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I do need to run. I've got to go and see what's going on with my daughter. Okay, cool. I'll talk to you later, Heather. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.